For me, artificial intelligence is a blanket term for algorithms, automated approaches, reasoning, and data processing that enable the outsourcing of certain tasks which were usually perceived as requiring human intelligence by machines.
You're trying to program tasks which you would normally associate with human intelligence. Things like understanding natural language, seeing the world and understanding it, even like moving in an intelligent way.
I generally believe in openness. I like using open source software and contributing to open source software. And I think that, as computer scientists, we should be making all of our contributions as open and reproducible as possible.
There's other benefits to open source, like they would make benchmarking much more straightforward. Also, I think it would force everybody, including myself, to write better research code and test your research code better, because if you don't have to release your code, then you are not nearly as incentivized to do so. I'm being honest about it.
I think like a general pro of open source development is it makes it accessible to more people. Maybe like if someone develops one technology really well and makes it open source, someone else can have another idea for that and reach the point of being able to implement it quicker to solve some new problem with it.
If you think of the trolley problem as the classic of it, you could divert the trolley left and it will kill one person who's your relative, or you can divert it right and it will kill 1,000 people whom you've never met and never heard of. That's like a classic kind of like moral, philosophical discussion. I think it's an valuable discussion to have on a philosophical level in the context of autonomous driving, or in automation in general. Like even a robot, like a factory robot, needs to decide between saving the life of one employee or saving the infrastructure that's worth $10 billion. It would be very noble to say like human life comes first in any context. Would actual business interests dictate that policy? I'm not sure.
Right now, we're just kind of at the very start of AI, and so ethics doesn't play a huge role in a lot of what we do, just because a lot of these algorithms are very they're in their very early stages, and there's not a lot that they really can do that could cause problems. I would say like people are trying to develop these algorithms to make them more useful in the real world. But a lot of work right now is done in simulation because the real world is just too complex for these algorithms.
My project is more mild in the ethical perspective, but it still involves human-robot interaction. We have a robot that is capable of navigating in a very open area, and for example, if in a situation where it's in the atrium and the crowd is very dense, and the robot's preferences of navigating in the crowd is a research focus of mine. And that involves like your interpretation of the other agents, the other pedestrians' motivation, like where they are going and how they are interpreting robots' behavior, because the robot sometimes can seem quite odd from humans' perspective. For example, it might be blocking someone's move, while it's obvious that someone is moving towards that direction, things like that. So humans' perspective in this project is very obvious, but it's not so much to the moral standard big decisions like that.
I don't see an issue just with making it open source. I think it comes down to how it's used. So if you open source something, you're giving up control over who uses it for what, and there's no limitations that someone takes it and uses it for something that you wouldn't want.
At this point in time, with where AI is, I would say that the biggest concern would just be it might be hard for a company to be profitable if everything's open source, if everyone's sharing everything they do. But on the other hand, getting an AI system like a robotic system to do much, like you have to spend a lot of time tuning it and adjusting parameters and playing with your data sets. It takes a lot of work to get a robot to do a particular task, even if you have all the right code.
I don't see how things like intellectual property and trademarks could be protected with an open source platform. If you say that the AI components need to be open source, essentially you're saying everything needs to be open source. And AI is a lot of the places where there's a lot of proprietary stuff that goes into the AI. AI is the thing that Google's ad auction system is AI. Siri is AI, right? And you're not going to expect these companies to share their code with you necessarily. So when you have these competitive platforms, then there is a cost to sharing each other's code, because it makes people use each other's ideas without understanding them a lot easier. So, because my gut reaction was let's make everything open source. It's just those mean-hearted businessmen who don't want to share their code because they want to make more money off the software that we write. We as programmers and developers and researchers want to share our code as much as we'd like. It's true to a point, because you also want people to go and read your papers and try and implement stuff themselves before just taking the library that you wrote and using it out of the box, not understanding what you've actually accomplished. How important ethics is in artificial intelligence is no different from asking how important ethics is, period. I don't think that ethics plays a bigger role in artificial intelligence than it does in other domains of human endeavor. It's important for us to have a moral compass as researchers, as developers. We wouldn't want to do things which we know have adverse moral and ethical implications.
It's everyone's responsibility to reach a consensus while they are using this platform and developing this platform. Of course, it's going to be hard to reach one consensus, but I think everyone should be aware that there are different options.
I think in some sense AI is comparable to nuclear technology in that there are a lot of positive uses, but it's conceivable that you could use it for some really terrible things too. I think that if certain types of technologies got into the wrong hands, they can be very damaging.